Being a high fantasy series, the Legend of Zelda series is no stranger to creepy and dark themes, especially ever since its jump to 3D with Ocarina of Time, where they upped the ante with the undead theme. As a matter of fact, around the beginning of the game in question, you'll encounter such undead beings out in Hyrule Field when you first leave the forest. Once you see the nightfall and that gate closing up, you'll soon realize that you're going to be stuck fending off orange-eyed, glowing, creepy smiling and chuckling skeletons that crawl from the ground and try to slash you to death with their claws. They go by the name of Stau Children, or Stau Child for singular term. While these enemies aren't hard to kill, there's something to be said about being locked out of safety and being out in the open during the night as a kid dealing with these creepy looking monsters. Just look at that face, it's creepy. But anyways, I wanted to talk about two noticeably infamous examples, the Redeads and the Handmasters. If you speak to a Zelda fan, chances are you'll be told that these are among the many monsters in Zelda that are some of the more frightening ones. So let's take a look and see why. Let's start with the hands, the Floor Masters and the Wallmasters. Well, one, the Wallmaster, will take you back to a further room, and the other faces you head on. For me, I find myself fearing the Floor Master more because while it's certainly frightening for the Wallmaster to drop down and grab ya, at the very least, it's not too hard to kill. Floor Masters, on the other hand, will split into three small versions of itself. And don't let that size of them fool you. If one of them starts to attack you, they'll latch onto your neck and choke you and you lose health, and they'll go back to regular size once they let go. I remember always hating having to fight these enemies because I distinctly remember having a tough time hitting them when they were in 3 because of how small they were and how they ran around, and if you don't hit them soon enough, they'll latch onto you and choke you and then grow to big size again. And then there's the fact that when they're big, when they charge at you, they're pretty much invincible when attacking, and they may hit a lot. And there's also the fact that you face off an invisible Floor Master later in the game. And yes, it stays invisible when it splits in 3. Heck, when I first saw a Wallmaster land without grabbing me, I got scared and thought it was a Floor Master. But when I defeated it, it didn't split to 3, which eased my fear easily. The Wind Waker Floor Masters essentially do what Wallmasters do. They grab ya, take you all the way to a previous room, though this time you're unharmed when they do that. Though they do have haunting sounds when you approach them, and they shriek when they snatch ya. They're thankfully not too hard to beat because they are easily avoided even when you're grabbed, and you can even damage them when they do so. Heck, you can just snipe them from afar with arrows. Now, let's talk about the Redeads, the creepy zombie creatures that roam in the world's darker areas in the games. These monsters are infamous for their horrifying scream and the fact that they latch onto you and bite you if they get even closer. There are similar enemies called Gibdos who have actually appeared in other Zelda games prior to Ocarina of Time, but within their jump to 3D, they essentially act like Redeads. While they're not as common as Redeads in Ocarina of Time, they made a more prominent appearance in Majora's Mask, in which they surround the house of a father and daughter. They even curse the father into this horrifying looking mummy creature, who thankfully can be healed. They even reside in a well, demanding items assuming you're wearing the Gibdo's mask, but they won't harm you thankfully, as long as you keep the mask on. Another thing that's creepy about Redeads and Gibdos is the fact that, like, when you kill them, they just lie there. They didn't stay there for quite a while, to the point where one might think they might actually get back up. Well, in Majora's Mask, if you try to do that in the well specifically with a Gibdo, they'll come right back up. That's the only instance in which they'll come back up. Now, having all said that about Redeads and Gibdos, I wasn't super afraid of them, although there were times I was intimidated by them. Like one example in particular, when you encounter Redeads in the market in the adult timeline, where the happy people used to be and such. It's quite jarring seeing that change, but that particular moment is for another video. Anyhow, the reason why I wasn't as afraid of the Redeads and Gibdos of the N64 era was mainly because in Ocarina of Time, you can easily stun them with the Sun Song, which you can learn early in the game. And the fact in Majora's Mask, although you do have to deal with Gibdos before getting it, you can use the Gibdos mask to bypass the Gibdos. And the Redeads, if you wear the Gibdos mask in question, or the Captain's hat, or the Garo's mask, well, this happens. Need I say more? Another reason why I wasn't as scared of Redeads in the N64 era was because the sound they use for the scream is essentially stock sound. Thus, as a kid, when I first heard that, I didn't think it came from the Redeads. In fact, I thought it was coming from somewhere else. I was expecting like a fierce roar like they did in Melee. However, there was one era of Redead that really scared me. Yeah, I mean really badly. It's the Redeads from the Wind Waker. Why, you may ask? Well, I don't know. Maybe because how shrill and frightening that scream is, and the fact that it isn't actually stock sound, and the fact that frickin' eyes glide up and they show their nasty teeth! Worst of all, you have to fight 3 Redeads before you get a chance to get the mirror shield in order to stun them from the light. But even after getting that shield, there's a good number of times there won't be a light ray to stun them. These monsters are the reason why it took me so long to progress in Wind Waker back in the day when I was younger. You know that infamous Triforce Chart quest? Everyone didn't like having to go scavenger hunting for it, or having to fork Tingle the Dough for them to translate it. Me personally, I had a game guide for this game, and I saw in one of the areas in the private oasis, they were going to have Redead encounters, and that alone scared me enough. Every attempt I've tried to do in that particular one, I've either stopped the game or just tried muting it, but I still was scared as hell when I did this. I can only imagine if anyone didn't see them coming and got a nasty surprise like that, along with the fact that in the ghost ship, it has the only Wizrobe in the game, as far as I'm aware, that can summon a Redead, which scared me so badly, I shut off the game before I could even encounter that Redead. Though, that area did thankfully have a light. The private oasis, not so much. And there's the fact that these Redeads actually kind of gives a disturbing shake when they walk. They kind of jitter in a way, it's creepy. But yeah, I really do not like the Redeads and Wind Waker at all. Even if I'm not as scared of them as I used to be as a kid, they're still creepy on their own. Ah! What the fuck? What the fuck? Oh my god, that scared the hell out of me.